Let's talk about Steve to begin with. He's such a fantastic actor, and I'm assuming an incredibly close friend considering your numerous collaborations. What is it about him that you just love working with him on projects like this?
Well, he's great at what he does. That always makes it easier. But also, like you say, he's like a nice guy and he's very easy to work with. And the first time I worked with him was on 24-Hour Party People, and that from the beginning, I kind of thought Steve was the only person who really wanted to play Tony Wilson, and so we sort of talked to Steve right at the beginning of the process. And then, but working with him on set, he just brings a load of stuff, to it. So I had never worked with someone from that area of comedy before, and obviously Steve's used to generating his own characters, generating his own material, so he's always coming up with ideas, and it's felt like all his comedy is based on being real. Like it's not like cheating, like not just like creating some funny moment, but like it comes from a kind of truth about who the person is and how they behave. So I really enjoyed it then, and sort of just gone on doing it since.
And I've spoken to you before about the trip, and I remember telling you about everything sort of means to me and what it means to people, and you almost seemed a bit surprised that some people are finding deeper meaning in it than actually exists. But in a film like this, there is so much deeper meaning. I mean, this is a very profound tale. It must be great even when you sort of make things like The Trip, but with a project like this, it must be great to put something out there which has quite barbed and very pertinent messages.
Well, I hope so. I hope it works. I mean, the idea is like, look, there seems to be like, this is, as a starting point, could be funny. A character like Rich McCready, someone who's like, very energetic, very, sort of very flamboyant, could be a funny way in, an enjoyable way in, to looking at retail fashion, and in particular, just looking at inequality in retail fashion. And in a way, you could pick any industry, loads of it, almost all global industries have elements of this. But retail fashion, I think, is particularly extreme. So you have tens of millions of women working in places like Sri Lanka, or, on low wages, making clothes for the brands where the owners are people like Phillip Green, who's worth $1 billion, or Stefan Persson, who owns H&M, is worth $22 billion, or Amancio Ortega, who owns Zara, is worth like $60 billion. So it's not like about they're evil guys, but it's just the amount that we allow this kind of inequality just seems grotesque. It felt like that would be, if we can keep chopping and changing between the world of the women and the world of the kind of people like Rich McCready, it could be fun.
Yeah, because the disparity in wealth, I mean, if you look at how much the top 1% own compared, and think about the extreme poverty in the world, it is, like you said, grotesque. I mean, what can we do to change things? And obviously that's a bit of an idealistic kind of thing to say, but it seems grossly unfair that we live in a world that is like this. And what changes do you think can realistically and feasibly be made?
Well, the process about how you achieve the changes is difficult, I think. But I think one of the things that's quite weird, if you think about it, say with retail fashion, is like how many people in that world actually want that inequality. I don't suppose any of them really want the women to be paid such low wages. I'm sure they'd all say they'd quite happily have them paid double or more. So it's like, well, why can't we achieve that change? And the process of how you achieve it is tricky. But I think it's kind of like, in terms of like us buying clothes in the high street, it would only make a really small difference to the price to double the wages of women in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, because they're only a small element of the cost. So it's like, it is incredibly frustrating. But I do think, more and more, that people, especially since the financial crash, the people are frustrated that the market, it doesn't work for them. The market, the idea that the market has to rule everything, which has really been the dominant idea for the last 40 years. I think people are tired of that and do want something to happen, something to change.
Has this project changed anything about you being so closely and doing so much sort of research and going into this world of sort of retail? Has it left a lasting effect on you, would you say?
Well, it was. There's lots of stuff that by doing research that I didn't know before. So just the size of the industry, the number of people, the number of women working at, the fact that there's virtually all women working at, the kind of conditions they live in. So all that is surprising. I mean, it's like, well, it makes, but and the other strand in the film, which is similar to that in a way, is that in the party, he's trying to throw his party, and there's this group of Syrian refugees on the beach, so it's sort of annoying because they're kind of spoiling his view. So working with them was great as well. We were trying to make another film about Syria, so I'd met quite a lot of people in Greece, Syrian refugees in Greece, and so working with them, has been something that's been really interesting and enjoyable.
Of course, on this, it takes you back to the Indian subcontinent. I mean, it's somewhere you've shot so often. What is it about that landscape? I know in this it serves a narrative purpose, but it does seem to be a place that really draws you in as a storyteller.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing is, like, work tends to generate other work. So you film in one place one time, it always increases the chance you're going to go back, because like when you're there, so you see stuff you think would be good to include. So it wasn't. I think in this case it was like, well, where does retail fashion get the clothes from? So it was really, the big kind of suppliers of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Vietnam. It was just sort of picking one of those really.
I'm talking about work leading on from another. I mean, obviously, a trip from Greece is coming soon. Trip to Greece, sorry, and then you shot here in Greece. I was just wondering, which came first? Did you go to Greece and think this would be perfect, or had you already sort of decided that you? It
was a kind of overlap in time, and also to be honest, I've been to Greece a couple of times before because I was researching a thing about Syria, and so I've been to Greek islands meeting Syrian refugees in Greece. So and so the Syrian refugees in a way comes a little bit from that, you know, that pop up on the island, and then you know, I think you know, again it's a bit like, because I've been to Greece quite a lot. The trip to Greece seemed like a good starting place.
And I mean, you work so rapidly, and you have so prolific. And I was wondered if you were going to take a break soon. And I'm not saying that because I think I want you to take one.
I think you're right.
I just think
you're right.
One.
You're right. And I am. I'm having a sabbatical, so I'm going to have.
Really?
It was going to be a year, but it's now at least 6 months. So 6 months break. Yeah.
Oh, well, you deserve
Cool,
it.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!